bump.
Hi, I'm Tony Alessandra, and welcome to People IQ, where we focus on applying the Platinum Rule in your business and personal lives. The Platinum Rule is simply treating people the way they want to be treated. It's the modern-day version of winning friends and influencing people. Joining me today is my good friend, Scott Zimmerman. Scott and I recently co-authored a book called The Platinum Rule for One-to-One Marketing. During the past few years, many authors and experts have discussed the concept of one-to-one marketing. In our book, we discuss ways to simplify the process of matching marketing messages to the wants, needs, and interests of every recipient. And that is what we're going to discuss today. So, welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Tony.
Nice having you on the show.
Nice to be here.
I'm going to give you a very pointed question.
Okay.
What gives you the ability to write about one-to-one marketing?
Well, I was kind of blessed and cursed to have had so many jobs in my life before I started my own company about 15 years ago. So I have a long background in sales, but what's interesting is I have a background in different sales environments. Sold door-to-door when I was in college, wound up selling B2C, furniture, mattresses, things like that for a while, and ultimately I got into B2B sales, starting off by selling really low-cost, transactional types of products like advertising specials and things like that. Over time, around 1991, when I became permanently unemployable by other people and started my own business, I started a company that did B2B, graphic design, marketing.
Let's just clarify B2B.
Business to business,
Okay,
thank you.
great,
Sorry,
okay.
I have a tendency to toss around acronyms,
All
so
right.
grab everyone that comes out.
I'm sure most of our viewers know what that means, but I just want to make sure everyone knows what it means.
I appreciate that.
And B2C?
Business to consumer.
Okay, just so everybody knows.
I hate pop quizzes, by the way, so no more. I'm not real good at them.
And A to B?
You got me on that.
Okay. All right, so
my company focused on helping other businesses communicate the value or the benefit of their products or services to other businesses, and that entails quite a bit, actually. Most people think that marketing is like just advertising, so they think it's just creating billboards or advertisements and things like that. That's only a small segment of it. And other people think that marketing is sales, and sometimes that gets confused, and really that's not the case at all. They're two entirely different functions. The best definition of marketing I ever heard, and I can't take credit for it, was a four-word definition. Marketing is solving customers' problems profitably.
that's a good definition.
It's a great definition because there's so much implied in that. And that means that you're actually listening to your customers, you're able to solve their problem by creating products and services they can afford and make sense monetarily, and that you can actually do it and make money while you do it. So for about 7 or 8 years, as my business grew, we got into different products and services. We started off very small, very simple, graphic design, creating stationery letterhead business cards. We got into advertising specialties. We branched off into signs, banners, vehicle lettering. Then the internet came about, and we got into web development, brochures, copywriting, and we really became a full-service B2B, business-to-business, marketing advertising firm. And as the years went by, I got more and more interested in creating effective marketing, marketing that made money that didn't cost money. So I got more and more interested in what happened with the marketing messages and actually creating marketing that supported sales. Because during this entire time, I was the only salesperson for my company. So I was out there selling business to business. So I knew what these people were going through. It was around the turn of the millennium, around 2000, I really got interested in this concept of one-to-one marketing. I was reading some great books, and I started seeing some patterns in there. And these authors were saying, this is the future. You've got to be able to market to people in a way that's specific to their wants, their needs, which products and services they're interested in. Not one of them had figured out a way to do it. So they were saying, do it. They weren't telling us how to do it. So I was trying to think about how to solve this problem. And a retired marketing executive who could tell I had a passion for this gave me the best advice anyone ever gave me. He said, if you want to try to learn something, try writing a book about it. So I tried writing a book, and it was called Courting Corporate Clients. In this book, I was talking about how B2B sales was a lot like being a singles guy, and we have to go out and find a spouse, a customer, and keep that customer for life, which is our goal, isn't it?
Okay, that's right.
Absolutely. You want to get them, and you want to keep them. And in this book, I was talking about how marketing could be supporting that person. So they help them find the right singles bar. That person has to go out and try to find the right kind of prospects, go through a courting process. And by the way, you never know if that courting prospect's a week, a month, maybe 18 months, or 3 years. And so how could marketing support that person and make that person successful? So everything I was writing about and thinking about was from the salesperson's perspective, not from management's perspective or marketing's perspective. Right. Well, I got into this chapter called Mom Wants Grandkids. And in this chapter, I was talking about that the singles guy is the salesman, and the marketing person was his mom, who was so desperate for grandkids that all he had to do was come back from the bar, hand her 5 phone numbers, and she would send out the flowers, the candy, the poetry, arrange the dates, make everything happen, make it so simple for that salesperson. I thought, now that would be the dream world. But in that chapter, I stopped writing because I thought I had found a fundamental flaw in the sales and marketing relationship. And in many companies and corporations, it's like sales and marketing live in these 2 silos.
That's right.
And you would think they have the same goal, and they say they do, but they almost kill each other getting there along the way. So in this chapter, I thought, you know what? Even if a salesperson came back with great leads and said, you know, here's 5, and the flowers, the candy, the poetry, the chocolates all started coming out, what if one of those people were diabetic or on an Atkins diet? Marketing would have no way of knowing that. So there was no clear communication, no common platform for the salespeople out in the field or the marketing people generating leads or helping to support that salesperson. There was no clear platform where every lead was profiled, specifically around the intelligence and the data gathered during conversations. And the basis of all CRM, which is customer relationship management systems, is supposed to give everybody the common track to run on.
Right.
One common database everybody could access. In my opinion, they missed a key point. And most of the CRM systems I had seen was they were really good at housing your data and keeping your notes, so if they called in, you could see where you were in the process. Right. But they didn't do anything. They were passive, not reactive. Now, being a salesperson for my company and having to perform the service after I sold it, keep all the clients happy, work with my employees, sales is not a full-time job for me. And what I realized was I didn't need more reminders. I didn't need more data. I needed more stuff done. Now, having been in sales most of my career, and you know as well as anybody, Tony, it's follow-up, consistent follow-up that makes or breaks great salespeople. True?
Oh, and what I'm hearing is that these database systems, sales automation, CRM systems, it's very much a data-driven, reactive, you know, only when they contact you, you can look up information. What you're looking for is something that was more proactive.
Yes.
Okay, so.
And being a busy salesperson, you know, I was always, and being a socializer, the 4 styles, I'm really good, like when I'm out networking and meeting people in the moment, I'm really in the moment. And so I might gather a lot of business cards, but going back to my office, if I got busy or distracted, which is pretty easy for a socializer, I wouldn't always follow through on all of those leads, especially if something didn't happen right away.
Right.
You know, we're kind of like a magpie. If it's new and shiny, we'll go get it. And most salespeople are built that way.
Yep.
Well, in kind of experiencing my own pain, and it happened one time when I was back at another network event and I saw someone who about a year before said, you know, get back in touch with me. Perhaps we could use what you do. And I failed to follow through. And I was embarrassed. And so in writing that chapter, I stopped and I said, you know what? If sales could just tell marketing, you know, this particular lead, they like to be treated this way, this way, this way, and here's where we are in the relationship. We know it may take 6 months to move it forward. Could you take care of that for me? That would be an ideal symbiotic relationship.
Right.
Sales is getting the support that they need. Marketing is getting the data they want so they can start building an intelligent database. I stopped writing the book, and I never went back to it. The manuscript is still half finished. We should talk about finishing that. So it's still sitting there. But I said, there's the fundamental flaw.
Right.
3 or 4 months later, and my brain was asking itself good questions, which is, what can you do about this? So I started looking for systems that I thought would solve the problem. Couldn't find any. 3 or 4 months later, my wife and I are driving down to Florida to have a vacation with my parents. And while I'm sleeping, at 1 o'clock in the morning, I sat bolt upright and dreamt of a system. And I started scratching it down on the legal pad. My wife wakes up and says, you know, what is this? And I said, you know what, I think we've been given a gift from God. And I started describing what this thing would do. And I was so excited about it, I couldn't go back to sleep. So we finished the drive down to Florida, and we get there at 7 in the morning, driving all night now. And my mom and my stepdad are waiting for me. And my mom's a socializer, my stepdad's a thinker, so I'm explaining this idea. And Within 2 seconds, my mom says, oh my gosh, you know, that is a brilliant idea. I think I'm going to do well with it. My stepdad didn't get it right away until I learned how to sell to a thinker, which is another show for another day.
That's right.
But the long and the short of it, Tony, is I got an idea of a web-based system that salespeople could access from anywhere. And not only input the data of what they had learned, but they could custom profile just by checking boxes what they learned about the person. Most importantly, their behavioral style, things like where are they in the relationship, which products and services might they be interested in, how do they like to receive information, is it print, is it email, personal visit, how often would they like to be followed up with, and just by profiling this person, a menu would come down and the salesperson would now be in control of the marketing process. So the salesperson could just pick and choose and say, for this particular relationship, I'd like to have this sent on this date, send this on this date, send this on this date, never send that. And please remind me to call, let's say in 3 months, just do it.
Right.
So the concept of Cyrano, which is what we wound up naming it, was the salesperson could pick and choose, this is a romantic person or this is a business person, and send things that not only moved the relationship forward, but built trust. One of the things you taught me is that people believe more of what you do than more of what you say. And I thought it would be very important for salespeople to demonstrate consistent, meaningful, one-to-one follow-up over a long period of time, which shows the prospect that they're thoughtful, they're helpful, they're not pushy. They think about them, but then they act on what they learned.
Yeah, and you know that old saying, out of sight, out of mind? I think one of the values of any type of CRM system is that it keeps you in sight. But it's not just the quantity or the frequency of contact, although that is important. I really believe what you're focusing on and what we focus on in this book is the quality of contact. It's not just that we're contacting people just to stay in touch. It's the quality of what's being sent. It's specifically targeted to their needs, their goals, their objectives, what they value. Now, why did you call it Cyrano?
Well, I'm going to get to that in 1 second because you touched upon something that's huge, and I'd like to take that one step further.
Okay.
A few years back, there was a concept that everybody was embracing called drip marketing. Drip marketing means I meet you for the first time, then I go back and put you in a system, and every month or every 6 weeks you get a newsletter, you get an email.
Right.
Well, the thing is that you're going to get the same thing that everybody else gets.
Right.
Now, there's a phenomenon that people are starting to talk and write about called attention erosion. And in business world today, it's getting worse every day, and I'd like to explain it because it's very important. Stop and think about like an e-zine or something you've subscribed to, and you get the first email and you kind of read it and you go, well, it's not really what I'm interested in. Then a week later, the second email shows up and you go, really not interested in that. A week later, the third email shows up, you look at the subject line, you hit delete. The fourth you delete, the fifth you delete, and pretty soon you unsubscribe.
That's right.
I'm sure you've experienced a lot of that. We all have.
In fact, it's a big trend that everybody is wanting to send e-zines out, but everybody gets the same e-zine.
Right.
There's no custom tailoring.
Nothing at all.
Right.
And it actually can retard a relationship with someone as opposed to advance the relationship. So I got the idea about 4 or 5 years ago when we were designing newsletters for our corporate clients. So we would design a newsletter. It had the typical things in there. It would have like a human interest story and a case study and a client spotlight. And we'd take the proof back to the client. We'd set it down on the table, and there'd be 5 people standing around, and they're all kind of proofing it, critiquing it. Well, what was interesting is I noticed the same people would be drawn to like the birth announcements. Oh, there's a human interest story, and oh, people feel so good about us, and you know, that's so good. And then there'd be other people kind of standing back with their arms folded, going, why do we put that in a corporate newsletter? It has nothing to do with our business. More case studies, more facts, more data. And ultimately, in researching that and how different people would react to different messages or different situations was how I discovered your work with the Platinum Rule. And when I figured out that your methodology combined with my technology was kind of like peanut butter and chocolate, and I can't say the name of the brand, but people pretty know that it rhymes with Reese's Cup, I thought that we might have a solution to what's called attention erosion. And if you can create a message that someone really wants to read, it matches, worded in such a way that's pleasing for them, it's about a topic they've expressed they're interested in. More importantly, if you can find out what their goals and their needs are and send them things that help them, that may not even be related to what you do, can you imagine how they might start anticipating the next helpful message? And that's what this kind of marketing is all about. It's all based on Carnegie's proven principles of winning friends influencing people, put their goals ahead of our own, and guess what happens? You have relationships, you have trust, and eventually you'll be in the right place at the right time when they finally need what you do.
Right. Now, again, just so that everybody is up to speed here, the Platinum Rule, which is a very broad rule, is treating people the way they want to be treated. I mean, it really could be applied in any environment. It's simply being considerate, it's being perceptive, it's being adaptable. In our book, The Platinum Rule for One-to-One Marketing, what we specifically talk about is not just the broad strategy of the Platinum Rule, but also specifically 4 basic behavioral types. The director, the bottom line, no nonsense, results-oriented director. The thinker, who's more analytical, logical, focused, everything in its place and a place for everything. The relator, which is a third of the 4 styles. The more relationship-oriented, hey, we're all on this good ship Earth together. Very people-oriented, they love to put their arms around each other and sing Kumbaya.
But not in the office.
Not in the office, no.
If they could, they would.
Yeah. And then the last style, which is a socializer, the more flamboyant, outgoing. They don't have to be flamboyant, but they're more outgoing, they think quickly on their feet, a little bit more charismatic in the way they show their personality.
You'll find them in sales and PR and positions like that quite often.
These different styles do, in fact, gravitate to certain occupations. But in Cyrano, and I am going to have you come back and explain why you named it Cyrano, because for me, the only thing I know about Cyrano is Cyrano de Bergerac. Does it have something to do with that?
It has everything to do with that, so we'll just get that out of the way right now.
Yeah, let's do that.
I had already, come up with the idea and the concept and worked with my team at Cyrano Group to try to figure out what to name this thing. And I kept telling the stories over and over of flowers, candy, and poetry, and a gentleman who worked for me named Brent, who has a background in literature, and he's very bright. He said, well, you know what, Scott, as you describe it, he says, didn't Cyrano write and send love letters on behalf of his friend Christian until Roxanne fell in love with that person? And it was a perfect name because the system itself will actually create and automatically send exactly what needs to be sent to the prospect or the object of affection over a long period of time and match exactly what that person wants to see. Not everybody is romantic. Not every prospect is a relator. So it's very important to not only know the 4 styles. And when you talk about adaptability and the Platinum Rule, I think it's very important to know that it goes actually beyond the 4 styles. That means you just become very adaptive and sensitive to the needs of that person all the time.
Regardless of what it is.
Regardless
not just their behavioral style, but anything.
Well, think about it. They could be under stress. Your timing could be bad. They may be facing a promotion or that they didn't get. So what I've learned is as I'm listening to someone and speaking with someone, I'm picking up all sorts of cues. It's not only their behavioral style, and I'd like to clarify one thing about the 4 styles that made yours different and I think better than anything that was out there. Yours was based on observable behavior, not personality types, and that's critical. Tony, I've been in sales calls with people, and right in the middle of the conversation, they'll go from being jovial or joking to all of a sudden they'll tense up. And either my time has gone past, or perhaps they just want to now just get down to business. And if you watch someone, you can always adapt to that behavior. Now, going back to like Cyrano and customizing follow-ups, one of the things I always do is I might schedule a 2 or 3 or 4 touch follow-up that doesn't run too long, and then I call back. Did you enjoy getting those? Did those help you? What else could I be doing for you? I always try to orient myself where I am in the process with someone, and I also want to listen to their voice or show up and talk to them to see if anything's changed. Quite often things will change, and sometimes they're not acting in the same behavior as they did when I first met them.
All right, so let me ask this, because I think this is one of the key things. As I'm listening to you, this particular approach to marketing is very different than the traditional approach to marketing that I've learned. I mean, I actually am a PhD in marketing and was a college prof, and I taught the more traditional approach to marketing. This was back in the 70s. So it's a whole new world right now. With your Cyrano CRM, how do you actually send out personalized messages and make it feel personalized to the person who's receiving it? Because that's really the trick here.
It's not really a trick, and I'm not taking offense to it, because the whole thought and idea behind the concept is to just automate what's in the salesperson's heart to begin with. So if you haven't taken the time to think about what the other person wants and how to help them, there's nothing to automate. There's nothing to customize. But if you're getting into the technical side of the system, you know, it's tied to customized email systems, tied to variable data print on demand that will actually put the people's names, change the graphics and the copy based on what you want it to do, tied to fulfillment centers that will automatically send the right business gift on their birthday or if they placed an order. So it's all about automation. But that's not really, you know, as much as I want to talk about how it does it, it's really what's underneath it, the thought behind it, the psychology, the methodology behind it. We just simply automate a lot of what you've taught and a lot of what I try to do by combining the sales and marketing process into one seamless function.
Okay, and I think what's really important here is that is exactly what drew us together, is that, you know, I had a concept that I've been preaching since the 70s, the early 70s, and all of a sudden I saw a way to truly put it into practice with technology that is modern today technology. One thing that I see when I am out speaking with organizations is that their sales forces are frequently doing either joint calls, or you have 3 or 4 different salespeople calling on the same customer. Let's say a hospital, you have a big company, and that company has several salespeople selling different product lines. They're all selling into the same hospital. One person may find that information about people in the hospital and not sharing it with another person, you know, where groups of people have to go in and sell, but they're in there at different times. With the Cyrano system and this one-to-one marketing, how do we take this CRM, this customer retention management system, this database, and make sure it's coordinated across all the people that have to have that information? Because if you called on somebody yesterday within, let's say, a hospital, and I'm calling on the person today, how do I find out what information you discovered yesterday so that I can use it today?
Okay, I'm going to answer the question, and before I do, though, I want you to ask me a follow-up question, because it's something I want to talk about before we run out of time, which has to do the best and highest use of the system, which is cross-selling and upselling and marketing back to our own customers, because that was the genesis of the whole idea.
Okay.
But to answer your question, the short answer would be log in and look. What has Bob done for this particular account? Is anybody calling on this account? What's been sent? What have they received? What's this person's behavioral style? Where are we in the relationship? How do they want to be treated? How do they want to receive information? It should all be in there.
Okay, but now you said log in and look. Most of the CRM systems that I have seen, except for the exceptionally high-end ones, are basically on your own laptop. So, you know, like, and again, we don't want to mention specific names. We won't mention any names, but there's a lot of
packages out there.
Yeah, but you can actually buy them, and maybe all the different salespeople have their own database system on their computer. How do I share on my computer the data that I have and send it to your computer?
There's a centralized database that resides in internet servers. You log in and look. One of the biggest concerns we heard out there when we were thinking through this idea and how to develop it has to do with usually small business owners or sales managers. And if you think about it, if you have 5 salespeople and each of them has their database on their laptop, and one of them decides to go work for your competitor, turns in his 2-week notice, walks out the door,
there goes your customer database.
Do you think that might cause you some concern?
Oh, absolutely.
Then you get into the legal battles of intellectual property. Who owns the database? Was he paid to build the database? So on and so forth. Right. Nobody wins when that happens. It was our thought process in doing this, and not only should it be centralized, using the advantages of secure internet and all that, but here's something that's even bigger. Let's say that person works for you, and they've been using the system correctly, and they're scheduling all the logical follow-ups for every person the way they should. And by the way, it takes about 60 seconds, so it doesn't take a lot of time.
Great.
I built it for salespeople. They hate typing, they love selling.
Built by a socializer for salespeople.
Nobody else could have figured this out. I solved my own problem.
All right.
But the idea would be is that if that person leaves or needs to be replaced, so you have to let Bob go, but you bring Sally in, you go in the system, you take out Bob's name, you put Sally's name in, and hundreds of relationships just keep going effortlessly. Everybody gets what they're supposed to get, but now they're getting it from Sally.
Okay.
And in fact, you could immediately go into the database, find everybody of a certain type, send out a welcome letter or an introductory letter. If they're a socializer, send them out a funny email introducing Sally. So you could customize the transition. It would be completely seamless from every prospect and every client's point of view. And I think that's a huge advantage.
All right. Now, Is the system, I'm just curious about this, is the system set up so that if you do have 5 salespeople, those salespeople, instead of seeing the entire database, only see the ones that are allocated to them?
You can do it either way.
Okay.
You can set it up so they only see their own, or they could see system-wide, but if they still pull up someone's name that's not their account and send something out, it would go on behalf of who owns that relationship.
All right.
That leads me to one thing that I wanted to get to before we run out of time, which was the main problem that I saw.
Which was cross-selling, and is that what you...
Back when I was doing the traditional B2B marketing, advertising, communications, I wrote my last newsletter in 1999 when I realized newsletters weren't working anymore. I wrote an article in there called the $64,000 question, and I found myself getting into arguments with my own clients. And they would come in saying, hey, we need another giveaway for a trade show. We want to do another direct mail piece. And what they were telling me, Tony, is we want more new customers. So they're spending money on mailers and giveaways, and I would ask them the same question. Here's the $64,000 question. Right now, does every single one of your current customers who like you, know you, and trust you know about the value of all your products and services and why they should be buying them from you? Nobody could answer that yes. So I said, wouldn't it make sense to spend your money and your focus and your efforts selling more to the people who are predisposed to buy from you than trying to go out and start the process from scratch? And I couldn't get anybody to solve that problem, so that was the main thing we went after, which is turn your clients into apostles. If you treat every client the way they want to be treated, using the platinum rule and some automation, you're staying in meaningful contact, you're helping them achieve their goals. Can you imagine how easy it is to convert them into apostles that you talk about?
Right.
People who say, you think about me, you try to help me, you're doing something about it, and they go out and they give you referrals. And you and I both know that if your new prospects are coming in from referrals, they probably won't need to read the sales book that you and I wrote.
Right. You know, as I'm listening to you, I'm reflecting on some of the meetings I've just been speaking at. You know, as a motivational speaker, I'm coming in and there's big themes to these meetings. It seems more and more a big theme is cross-sell, cross-sell, cross-sell. We want, you know, our people at the bank to be able to sell all the services of the bank, not just the ones that they are familiar with or comfortable with. So it really is, I guess, a crucial business objective to do this cross-selling. So I really appreciate learning a lot about Cyrano, as much as I know about it, and sharing it with our viewers. Well, that's all the time we have for today. So I really want to thank you for joining us today, Scott, to talk about the Platinum Rule for one-to-one marketing. I really know that if you apply the concepts that you've just learned,